For today's video, I'm going to use a couple things to make this hat. So I'm going to be using blanket yarn by Bernat. I'm also going to be using regular acrylic yarn, some stitch markers, tapestry needles, measuring tape, scissors, and also 3 different hook sizes. So I'm going to be using an 8mm, a 6.5, and also a 5mm. Before we begin, I do want to mention that I already made a tutorial for these hats using regular acrylic yarn, and also I made a fin hat tutorial recently using chunky yarn, and now I'm going to show you how to do it with the jig hat. So I'm going to start off by using an 8mm, and I'm also going to make a magic ring. To make a magic ring, you're going to put your hand in an L shape, you're going to grab the yarn underneath, and you're going to make an X. Once you see the X, you're going to flip over and you're going to see 2 lines. After you see these 2 lines, you're going to grab your hook and go underneath, and then grab and twist, and now you can pull away. After you've done that, you're going to chain 1, and you're going to make 10 half double crochets inside of this ring. So you're going to yarn over, go inside the ring, grab the yarn, and then pull all the way through. Yarn over, go inside the ring, grab the yarn, and then pull all the way through. If you're a beginner, I recommend putting a stitch marker in the first stitch so that you can keep track of where to begin. But once I finish my 10 stitches, I'll come back for row 2. Once your 10 stitches are done, you're going to pull up a loop and you're simply just going to close off the magic ring. But I do want to mention that closing off the magic ring is a little bit hard with this type of yarn just because of how thick it is. So make sure that when you pull, don't do it too tight because the yarn will break. So after your ring is closed, you're simply just going to close off the loop you pulled, and now you're going to slip stitch in this first stitch and chain 2. 1 and 2. Once you've done that, you're going to make a knot over here so the loop doesn't open as you work, and then I'm just simply going to crochet over the tail. For row 2, I'm going to increase every stitch, which means I'm going to add 2 half double crochets in every spot. So I'm going to close off the loop, and then I'm just going to make a half double crochet, bring the tail forward, and simply just crochet over this tail and make 2 half double crochets in every spot, and you're going to end up with 20 stitches. Once I finish that, I'll come back. Before we start row 3, I do want to mention that if you ever get lost throughout this video, the pattern is also available in the description. So now I'm going to slip stitch and chain 2, 1 and 2, and I'm going to increase every other stitch. So in the first stitch, I'm only going to make 1 half double crochet, and then in the next stitch, I'm going to add 2 in the same spot. So here's 1 and 2. In the next stitch, you're only going to make 1 half double crochet, and then in the second stitch, you're going to add 2 in the same spot. And now you're going to repeat this for the rest of this row. Once your third row is done, you're going to slip stitch and chain 2 again, and you're going to increase every 2 stitches. So in the first 2 stitches, you're only going to add 1 half double crochet, and then on the third stitch, you're going to add 2 in the same spot. So in the first 2 stitches, you're simply just going to add 1 half double crochet, and in the third stitch, you're only going to add 2 in the same spot, and you're going to repeat this for the rest of this row. The 5th row will be our last increasing row. So for this row, you're going to do 3 half double crochets first, and then on the 4th stitch, you're going to add 2 in the same spot. So in the next 3 stitches, you're only going to add 1 half double crochet, and then on the 4th stitch, you're going to add 2 in the same spot. And you're going to repeat this for the rest of this round. Once you finish your 5 increasing rows, your base should measure roughly 7 inches. And now you're going to do regular rounds of half double crochets until you reach above your eyebrows. So I'm going to make 3 more rounds, and once I finish that, I'll come back with a total of 8 rows. Once you finish your 8 rows, or until you reach your eyebrows, you're now going to mark off where you want your face hole to be. Personally, I did 20 stitches, and later on I'm going to add a single crochet round to smoothen everything out. But once you finish it, you're just simply going to make half double crochets until you reach this stitch marker. Once I've done this, I'll come back. Once you reach your stitch marker, instead of continuing and finishing the round, you're actually going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and you're going to flip your work, and you're going to work back and forth until you reach the bottom of your chin, and later on we're going to join it with itself. So I'm going to repeat this for 7 rows and then I'll come back. I currently have 15 rows total, and this reaches till underneath my chin, but obviously depending on your size and preference you might have to do more or less rows to accommodate to your size. Now I'm going to join the bottom part to itself. If this were a ski mask, I would do the same chain length I skipped over here, but if I do that, it's just going to make the bottom saggy, and I personally do not like that. So I'm just going to make a chain length of 10, which is half of the stitches I skipped. This personally works perfect for me, but obviously you can make more or less chains to accommodate your size. So to join the bottom part, I'm just going to make a chain length of 10, and once you've done that, you're going to grab the other side and slip stitch. Once you've done that, you're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and now you're going to make 2 rounds of half double crochets like normal, and once I finish that, I'll come back. Once you finish, this is what your work should look like, and I currently have a total of 17 rows, and now I'm going to make a round of single crochets to smoothen this rough border down. I also left a long tail over here so that I can tie it off over here with the single crochet round instead of trying to loop it through a bunch of times. To do the single crochet row, I'm just going to pick the side that has the tail, and I'm just going to go straight in, and then I'm going to grab my yarn and feed it through, and then chain 1. Once I chain 1, I'm going to put this tail forward and crochet over this tail, and you're simply just going to make single crochets all around until you reach where you started. This is what it looks like after you finish your single crochet rounds, and now I'm just going to flip this and tie this off inside. So I'm just going to go underneath a stitch, and I'm basically going to bring the yarn forward, and then I'm going to repeat that for the other side as well. Now that the yarn is forward, you can now tie it off to itself, and you're going to make a couple knots and then you can cut it off. Now we're going to create the body parts that are going to be attached to our hat. So for the eye and nose, we're going to use a 5mm, and for the ears, we're going to use a 6.5. Once you have your chain length of 8, you're going to single crochet your way up until you reach the tail. Once I've reached the tail, I'm going to add 2 more single crochets in the same stitch, and this is going to be the increase of our ear. So now you're going to single crochet your way back down and crochet over this tail. Row 1 is done, so now I'm going to start row 2. So you're going to chain 1 and flip your work, and you're going to single crochet your way up until you reach the top middle stitch. Now that I've reached the top middle stitch, I'm going to add 3 single crochets in the same spot, and then I'm simply just going to single crochet my way back down. Once you finish the 2 rows, I'm going to make a single crochet row over here so it smoothens the ear out. So I'm just going to go inside the stitch I just did. You're simply just going to single crochet on the top, and you're going to have about 4 single crochets. Now that this is done, you're going to chain 1, and you're going to cut a long tail because that's what we're going to use to sew it onto the hat. Now I'm going to make the little mouthpiece, and I'm going to make a chain length of 14. So once I finish my chain length, I'll come back. Once your chain length is done, in the first stitch, you're going to add 3 single crochets all in the same spot. And now you're going to make 1 single crochet all across the bottom until you reach the last stitch. I have 1 stitch left, so now I'm just going to make 6 single crochet all in the same stitch. Once that's done, you're going to single crochet your way up. Now that I have 1 stitch left, I'm going to add 3 single crochets all in the same spot. Now that that's done, I can finish it off, and make sure that you cut a very long tail, that way you can sew it onto the hat. Now I'm going to show you how to make the eyes, and for this part I'm going to use a 5mm. So you're going to make a magic ring, and then you're going to chain 2. 1 and 2. Once you have your chain 2, you're going to make 12 double crochets inside of this ring. To do a double crochet, you're going to yarn over, go inside the ring, grab the yarn, pull once and twice, yarn over, go inside the ring, grab the yarn, pull once and twice, and then you're going to repeat this 10 more times. Once your 12 double crochets are done, you're going to close off the tail. Then you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch and chain 1. Now you're going to increase and you're going to make 2 half double crochets in every single spot, so you're going to end up with a total of 24 stitches. So you're just going to go in, yarn over, go in, pull all the way through, and simply make 2 half double crochets in every stitch. Once you finish that, you're going to switch colors, so you're going to fold it and finish it off, and then you're going to pull on the white part and make sure that these two are secure. Once that's done, you're going to slip stitch and chain 1. Now you're going to crochet over these 2 tails and you're going to make a round of single crochets. Now you're going to make 1 single crochet for the rest of this row. Once you finish that, I'm going to show you how to get rid of the loose ends. So I'm just going to put my hook underneath a couple stitches, and then I'm just going to bring this tail forward. Once I've done that, I can cut off this part, and now all I have left is this part. So I'm just going to go underneath a stitch, split the yarn in half, so I have 2 and 2. One part goes underneath, the other one stays on top, and then you simply just tie it off. Now I'm going to make the nose, and I'm simply just going to make a magic ring and then chain 1. And then inside of this ring, I'm going to make 6 single crochets. Once you've done that, you're going to close off the magic ring, and then you're going to slip stitch and crochet over the tail. And once you've done that, in the first immediate stitch, you're going to add 3 single crochets in the same stitch. In the next 2 stitches, you're only going to add 1 single crochet. On the 3rd stitch, you're going to add 3 single crochets in the same spot. And then lastly, in the last 2 stitches, you're going to add 1 single crochet, and you're simply just going to slip stitch and finish this off. Once you finish the mouth piece and the nose piece, it's time to sew it on. So I'm just going to grab my tapestry needle and I'm just going to weave it through, and I'm going to make sure that this is centered. And then I'm just going to go in and out of every stitch until I reach where I started. Once that's done, it's time to sew it onto the hat. Obviously, you can move these around and make sure you find a placement that works with your personal liking. This is the placement that I personally like, and obviously you can alter this to your liking, but I placed the ears about 5 rows from the top, and I also did about 2 or 3 stitches from the eyes. The eyes are 2 stitches apart, so it's between rows 4 through 6. Now for the mouthpiece, I skipped 2 rows from the bottom, so 1, 2, and this is where my mouthpiece is, and I curved it just a little bit, and it will be overlapping with the eyes. And now I'm going to sew this on by going in and out of every stitch, and once I finish that, I'll come back. Once you finish sewing everything together, I'm going to show you how to tie off with the plush yarn, because it won't have 2 tails like it does for the acrylic yarn. So you're basically going to go underneath a stitch and create a loop, and once you've created this loop, you're basically going to go behind it and then fully tie it off, and then you're going to repeat this a couple times. So just create a loop and go behind it, and once you've done this a couple times, then you can simply just tie it off all together, and now you can just tie it off and you're done. This is the final result, and I think that this came out super cute. It's also super soft. I can't wait to use this and match with someone. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week.